Hi folks, this is Jason Sage with Jegas LLC, and this is one of the videos in a series for Jegas Edit, a new application that we've created for developers to be able to modify source code, programming languages, HTML, web development, and we've added a lot of tools and did a lot of bug fixes, and I think the current version at the time of this video, 0.62, is ready for prime time. We definitely have been using it for a while ourselves now, and basically it's the only editor we use. And one of the things we've said in developing this is we weren't really trying to compete against other text editors and stuff. We do look at, as corny as this may sound, we look at it as ice cream, is that different flavors appeal to different people, and we think that this editor is a nice balance between having a lot of features and not being so bloated that it's very slow to get started when you're just really quick trying to get through your day modifying stuff. You don't want to be waiting for your text editor to come up, and sometimes programs just like Notepad with the black and white just aren't going to cut it. So we've developed a Jegas editor, Jegas Edit, and this video is going to talk about some of the things that we think are worth mentioning just to make using it go a little smoother for you. Alright, we have Jegas Edit installed here. I'm going to fire it up. This is exactly out of the box. When it is out of the box in version 0.62, we made sure that we had themes in there so that you got color right off the bat. In previous versions you would pretty much get a black and white editor until you configured all the colors yourself, so we tried to at least start folks out with color coding, and they can customize it as they wish. I'm going to go to a directory here where I have some C++ code. Particularly, I'm going to be looking at the code for the Jegas game classes, which is also available on our website for people who are developing games using DirectX technology with the game creators Dark GDK offering. And let's go into some of the code for that. Right here you'll notice too, I only see text files, and that's because of the filters, and we're going to get into that too. It has to do with the default filters that are programmable as well. So the way I have it set up by default is you have all these different kinds of text files, so that it pretty much limits or filters what you see when you do the open. This should not be new for a lot of folks, but if you don't see the files you expect to see, this is why. You can go down to all files, and if you don't like the way that there's so many filters, you can actually customize that. We're currently in text mode. That's the default syntax language that Jegas Edit starts with, so you could actually get rid of all the filters and just make it all files all the time if you wanted to not be limited. Okay, so I'm going to grab a C++ file, and you can see that we have color coding right out the box, and it does a fine job. And one of the reasons I wanted to make this video is to talk about the selection as well as the column editing, because these are the two features that are a little out of the box or a little different than what you might normally run into or encounter with other editors. And specifically, let's get right to work on that. If you select multiple lines like this, and just so you know, the defining factor is if there's a carriage return or a line feed in the selected text. If you want to do a search and replace on that, we've done this a little differently than what many editors do. If you I'm going to hit Control H, which is the shortcut. This is the first time that I've encountered this. You get this dialog. You won't see this all the time, but this dialog, I'm not going to go through it word for word. I'm going to show you how it's done, but it basically gives you instructions on what I'm about to talk about and the way the special search and replace works. Now, if you don't want to see this video again, often is usually like a don't show this message again, but that requires using the registry, and we tried to be real light with our usage of the registry. So if you just hit OK, and then later you go to Tools and you save your options, you won't see the dialog again. Alright, so getting back to the search and replace, how it works. I'm going to change the word case to something else. Quite literally, something else. Replace all. Okay? It tells me how many replacements were made. And I'm going to close this window, but nothing's been committed, meaning our text that's highlighted up atop here is still the original text, and the text on the bottom is our change text. If I click this button over here, which is the toggle compiler output pane box, it'll take the text on the bottom that we've just made our changes to, and it'll replace the highlighted text in the top pane like this. I'm going to click it, it's going to switch it. Now we have our something else. It put this text in here that I searched and replaced. Okay, I'm going to go through the same process again. Notice we didn't get the dialog warning. I'm going to change something else back to case. Something else back to case, and I'm going to replace it. And again, it replaces it in the bottom. Another point I want to make too is that when you do a search and replace, wherever your cursor is, the search and replacing or find works one character beyond that. So if you already have your cursor in front of the word void, in where my mouse is here, and your cursor was right in front of the V and you wanted to search for the word void, it would find it because the searching starts on the O. But okay, we just made a text change, and the point I'm trying to make is that I just showed you how to commit changes that you've made. If you want to discard the changes, all you have to do is click in the top window somewhere so that there's no text selected at all. Then click the compiler out pane button, and you literally discard the changes that you just did on your search and replace. And the last variation on that is if you highlight that text, we go to do the search and replace, and I want to change something else back to case. Alright, I close this. I have the change text in the bottom pane, but I want to put this text somewhere else. I'm going to go to the bottom of the file here. All you have to do is select at least one character like that. See how I have the little blue square there? I just collect, whatever I select will be replaced. When I click this button, the text on the bottom pane is going to go right there. And there it is. So that's the whole selection bit. The other thing is column editing. Now, the undo works for column selection, but it doesn't work for column data entry. But we didn't want to not give you that feature because that's a very powerful feature, and in a later version we might add the undo for that. But what this dialog is for is it's telling you how, it does tell you about the undo bit, but it's basically telling you how to use the column data entry mode. And this is how it works. First of all, there's two modes. You have column selection, which is where you just copy some text. You select it, you can copy it, and you can actually paste in a column fashion. Let's say I want to paste it right here. When I paste it, you see it just put this text, verbatim into my code, which is very useful when you're doing a lot of database work or any kind of source code that you have like rows of identical data almost with a certain field that just when you have stuff that almost looks like a spreadsheet in your source code, this column selection and pasting comes in very handy. But the undo works fine for that. And to show you, if I hit Control Z or the undo link in the menu, that works fine. Here is where we went outside of the box. See, the development of this editor was based on this control called synedit, which is a Delphi derivative that's available in Lazarus Free Pascal, which is the language that this editor is written in. And they have a wonderful column selection, and we've taken that and brought that to you by making the features readily available, the configuration, all that good stuff, making this cool editor. But they do not have column data entry mode, and to us folks at Jegas, that's a very powerful feature when we're developing. Where does that come in handy? Here's a good example. I have a bunch of includes I want to do. Let's say I want to add a bunch more. By making some blank space here, putting my cursor on this first line, holding down the Alt key and dragging with my left mouse, even though you don't see it, I just drew a vertical line. Now I can actually type on multiple lines at one time. Include, and I might do something like that. So then I can just go through and start putting in file names. And a good example of the column selection would be I might do something like this. Hit Control C to copy it, and then go down here, and then I could paste it. And that's the column selection stuff. Now the undo works for that, but you'll see the undo does not work for the column. See, it gets a little funky there when you try to undo the column data entry. So we recommend that you save your work before you try to do this fancy column editing where you actually draw a vertical line and just start typing. It's a very cool feature. There is backspace. You can type all you want, but the undo does not work properly. And that again is because we had to go outside of the box for what the control that we did this editor in or used to make this editor is capable of doing. And we'll have to come up with a workaround for that, but we didn't think it was worth taking out of the program so you wouldn't have the power. We think it would have taken away a lot to not give you that column editing feature, that data entry feature. Well, that's it for this video, and thanks for selecting Jegas, and we hope you enjoy using Jegas Edit. Keep an eye out for other videos. Thanks.